Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Vivian De Guzman, human MRI and the #1 money magnet activator here in our show, My Spiritual GPS. So we know that we all want to get to our soul purpose, but we are where we are in time. And in the middle of that mix, there's the baggages and the clutter that sometimes show up as pain in our body, right? In our physical experience. And as we know, pain may be physical, it could be emotional, mental, or spiritual. And so today I have a very, very special guest about pain. So we know that you've heard me before say I'm a physical therapist, so I have had a lot of experience with people that have some form of pain. And our special guest today, named Vivian De Guzman, she is a licensed massage therapist. And come to find out, we actually met at the Author Incubator, courtesy of Dr. Angela Loria. Vivian is a very wonderful, phenomenal human being. As a massage therapist, she loves to demonstrate to people that they have the power in their own hands to stop the pain. Okay, so listen to that, right? You have the power in your own hands to stop your pain. So after raising 4 inspiring children, Vivian has taken the opportunity in the past few years to develop her gift of bringing healing touch to people that are hurting. So she loves to write, she loves to speak about and share the principle of comfort-based relief from pain and tension. In other words, you don't have to have pain in order to relieve pain, right? You've heard of the saying, no pain, no gain. So Vivian takes the opposite approach, and she wants you to actually feel good so that you can get to no pain. She wants to promote peace in the world, one muscle at a time. Isn't this amazing? So for those of you watching out there looking for holistic and alternative ways of healing, Vivian might be the answer for you. And for those of you with some chest pain, or sometimes when you breathe in or out, it causes you such pain in your ribs, she is the rib specialist. I call her the rib specialist, okay? Vivian's book is named Stop the Pain, Your Hands-On Manual for Neck and Back Relief. It was a bestseller on Amazon, and is now available in print from online booksellers. So let us all welcome Vivian De Guzman. Hi, Vivian.
Hello, Vivian. Thank you so much for having me today.
Yes, definitely. So share with us a little bit of your book, Stop the Pain. Who is it really for?
Stop the Pain is for anyone who still has pain, and they've tried so many other options, and they just haven't been able to get rid of it. It's people who want to be able to play with their children or grandchildren again without thinking, what's this going to cost me later? Or want to work in their garden, rake leaves this fall. Just do the normal things of life without having pain for days afterwards.
Right, because obviously if you have rib pain, right? And sometimes they don't even know the cause of that pain, but when they twist and turn, raise their arms, reach for something in the back of the car, right? It's like, that hurts. And then they have to like ice or put heat.
Yes.
And like you said, they can't take care of their grandchildren. They can't run around with them. They can't even pick them up. That's tough, right? I'm sure that's difficult for those of you. So what makes this book stand out from many of the books written about pain?
Books come from so many different backgrounds of people writing them, and most of them end up encouraging people to do something that's painful. Try my foam roller. Grown bodybuilding men crying at the gym with foam rollers. I'm like, how's this helping? So I think that, like, for instance, when I'm walking down the sidewalk, I usually wind up in the direction I'm facing. So when we lean into pain, trying to find comfort, to me, that's an oxymoron. That doesn't make sense. Because it's stirring up stress hormones. So you've just got a hit of adrenaline and cortisol on your on your way to comfort? I don't think so. So I like to look toward comfort to find comfort. And so that's how this is different. You mentioned no pain, no gain. I definitely don't subscribe to that. I subscribe to no pain, all gain.
All right. So what is the biggest mistake most people that you see most people do? So obviously chronic pain means they've had this for more than 6 months or more. But unfortunately, most people just agree to having the pain because they're used to it, right?
Right.
I'm more allergic to pain. I'm like, whoa, my body's telling me something. What is this about, right? What's the root cause? And then I go clear that energetically. But for you, as a massage therapist, people need comfort, like you said. If you can't breathe properly, you can't get enough oxygen, right?
Right.
If you can't use your arm and you have to work using your arm, well, then you can't really do your job well, right? So what is the biggest mistake that people have about having chronic pain, or mistakes?
Right. There are more than one. One of the most common, Vivian, is we are just so stretch oriented in our society, and stretch has its place. Let's warm up muscles, yes. But they often do these stretches on muscles that aren't warmed up, or they do them too strongly, and that causes the muscle to go into fear mode and tighten down further. So it ends up being counterproductive. You've seen that how many times in your field, right?
Yeah.
The physical therapy field.
Stretch.
So, and the other thing that I find is that tight muscles are wrung out muscles, very little blood flow. And when we stretch, it's actually wringing it out a little bit further. And then when you release the stretch, it comes back and you get at least as much blood as you have before, and maybe a little bit more. But if we rather take a muscle and put it at rest, so you can use this as a diagnostic tool. Where am I tight? Oh, right there, and then come toward it. So if I feel tension when I lean to the left, the standard is, oh, I need to lean left more. But instead, if you lean right, that tight muscle on the left that didn't want to let you go right is now at rest. It fills with blood in 20 to 45 seconds. And then now if I go back, I can easily lean because it just went from beef jerky to filet mignon.
Okay, so perhaps you can demonstrate to us some of those tools. So let's give an example. Let me see if Amy, are you able to see any comments or questions? Do people have any kind of pain in any of their body parts? So obviously you're a rib specialist, right? So can you tell us a story? I know I heard that your mom had some kind of story in the past. Share with the audience like what this technique would actually do for you. Or like for somebody, your mom was what, in her 80s or?
Right. I'll tell my mom's story.
Okay.
It was her 81st birthday, and I had just gotten licensed as a massage therapist. And I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to come bring my table, and let's get rid of every bit of tension we can find. Now, it took 3 hours because she was 81 and she'd never had a full massage.
3 hours. Okay.
Wow. Okay. So when she turned to her back, she said, I have always wondered, is it normal that my ribs on this side are higher than my ribs on this side? And I said, oh, Mama, I am not willing to call you abnormal, but let's just say you weren't born that way. So,
right. Okay.
So, I started doing the rib release technique and found that the first rib needed to go back a little and up a little to feel comfortable. And the second one back and up, third back and up. By the fourth one, I'm seeing the pattern. I'm going, Mom, these ribs all left home at the same day on the same time.
They left home. That's cute.
So I took my hands and put them on the whole rib cage and went back a little and up a little. And I said, now stay in touch with me. I've never done all the ribs at once. And she says, it feels fantastic. I said, okay. So 20 to 45 seconds, but I held it for a whole minute because this was a big deal. This was a shift of an entire rib cage.
Wow.
So I circled it around a little to integrate the changes. And
Mhm.
she turned and laid back down on her back. She was on her side when I did that. And she said, I just took the deepest breath ever. And I said,
Wow.
what does that mean, Mom? What just happened? And she felt down her rib cage, and they were even now.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's amazing.
yeah,
That's
something
amazing.
that I
Okay.
heard you say
Uh-huh.
on a previous show
Mhm.
was that there's all kinds of causes. A physical accident may have happened, maybe
Mhm.
even something spiritual, something mental, something emotional.
Right.
So any of those causes, and I loved what you said, that you can release at any of those points and
Mhm.
potentially fix. So I've just done some training in emotion code, and I've
Mm.
watched the chiropractor who wrote that book uh,
Mhm.
release an emotion and have back pain go away. And he knows how to fix back pain physically, but
Right.
that's not always the only answer.
The root cause. The root cause was emotional.
Exactly.
And
So
that's why it'll keep on coming back, because I've seen that in physical therapy. Like sometimes, like you said, a trauma, like a fall. You know
yes,
how when you fall on one side of your butt cheek,
yep,
of course, your pelvis and your hips kind of get misaligned, and your back as well, right?
right,
So when I adjust, or we call it mobilization, right,
yes,
in technical terms, when you
yeah.
move those bones,
Mhm.
because the muscles just hold on to the bones, right? So
Exactly.
when you move them, if it's purely physical, it just comes back naturally, like with
Yes.
your help, right? With the
Yeah.
help of a professional. So then you go back to normal, meaning level pelvis, level spine, level everything. Muscles can now heal better because
Right.
the blood can come back.
Mhm.
However, so I was experimenting on this in the past. When I asked them to come back again the next week, if it is purely physical, they're still level the next
Yes.
time they come back. But if it's emotional, mental, or spiritual, the pattern, as if they just fell again, went
Mhm.
back to the fall pattern, like it
Yeah.
was uneven. So that's what you meant by when the chiropractor knew how to do it physically, but then he knew it was an emotional issue attached to it, the body will compensate and
Yes.
tell us like, hey, something's wrong with me, can you please fix me? That's really the body's way of communicating with us.
That's
Pain is.
that's
So
exactly right.
awesome. So can you share with us, like take us through your process? Let's say, how do we identify if we even have a problem in our ribs? Can you
Okay.
share with us how to touch our ribs and how do we correct it if there?
Gladly.
Yes.
Gladly.
Yep.
And before I show that, I'm going to show the process because there's more than one tool that
Oh,
I
okay.
like to use. So here's a, make sure you can see
B.
this. It's like
Peace.
opposite on
Wow.
my screen.
Okay.
The
All
be
right.
at peace process. So what I really encourage people to do is be a noticer.
Mm,
So there, each of us is the insider in our own story,
yep.
right? And so nobody's going to be able to tell better than you. Like my father was a veterinarian, and
Mhm.
they're kind of famous for being able to discern issues because the animal's not talking to them.
Correct.
So you are the one who can notice in your own body, even if you can't put words to it, you can notice something's not quite right today. So I encourage that. And then evaluate your stressors.
Mm,
So maybe you took a road trip and
mhm.
sitting without much walking around was the stressor of the day. Or maybe there's a pandemic and you're working from home and your kids are home, and you're thinking about schooling them. So there are stressors, and that would be a non-physical. Or perhaps people made an office at home and they thought this is only going to be for a month,
Mhm.
so I'm not going to get a desk chair, I'm not going to get a desk. So they're standing at the bar. Oops, you know. So evaluate the stressors. What's going on there? Then what? Now I can't even see it. Pinch the spindle cells. So I'll teach the spindle cell technique
Okay.
and then engage muscles isometrically. I'll teach
Okay.
that. Apply warmth. You know how to do that. Although
Mhm.
we can talk about it can be a rice bag, it can be a heating bag, a
Right.
heating pad, a hot water bottle. many, many ways to apply heat. Hot bath with Epsom salt. Oh, yeah. And then create comfort with the compass. And that's one that I particularly love. And exercise in all the right places. If there are weak muscles, something's not going to be able to hold its own. And we need to be able to strengthen. So first off, here's how we identify if we've got something going on with ribs. So often people are surprised. They think of ribs kind of down in this midsection, but ribs actually go, the first one attaches just under the collarbone. So that's high. And at the base of the neck. So a rib is, oh my goodness, doing this backwards on the screen. There we go. A rib is attached front and back. And if something goes wrong, it's not doing this. It's a bar of bone. It's doing this. The whole path shifted for that side. Okay. So we're going to feel along the breastbone. This is if something is out in the front. They attach with cartilage to the breastbone, the top 6. And so I have a little tender spot here that I wasn't even aware of. So the idea of spindles.
We have to find our tender spot.
Exactly.
So let's have the audience feel their tender spot first.
Yes, perfect.
So let's find, and it doesn't matter if they don't know what number it is. They just have to find one spot. Now, if it's possible, it's not tender, but it's kind of tight, like it doesn't move.
Yes.
Like when I wiggle it, it doesn't move as much as my other side.
That's exactly right, Vivian. It's ribs are supposed to be like spring-loaded. They're shock absorbers to protect the internal organs, right?
Yes.
And so if you're kind of pressing in and you find one that's not springy, that's another clue. Yep. Perfect.
All right.
And then if you don't find anything here, you can come on down. The lower ribs, there's 12 ribs on each side, and the lower ones attached to each other coming up to the breastbone. So anywhere in here that you feel pain, and the side is actually a fantastic place. Because anywhere along the path, a person can have an issue because it's a bar of bone. So I sometimes find them here. And I work for and with a clinical thermographer, and she has had women who came in to get a thermogram, which is a non-compression, non-radiation mammogram alternative, in case someone doesn't know the word. And they've come in and said, oh my gosh, I've got this knot here, and I don't know what it is. It's painful. It shoots pain through my breast. I'm really, really scared. And the thermogram will show a little bit of heat, but not a lump, not pathology. And so then she'll say, you know what, why don't you make an appointment with Vienna and check it out and see if it's a rib. And in many, many cases, not in the breast tissue per se, but when it's on the chest wall, that can be rib related. So, and it's an immediate pain release. So, I found mine right here. So hopefully our watchers have found their
tender spot.
Their tender spot. So spindle cells, every muscle in the body has part of the proprioceptive system, long, narrow cells called spindle cells. And they're called that like stair rail spindles, just long and narrow. So they're in the brain of the muscle. So if you know, like the rib muscles the ribs are going this direction, but the little muscles between them are this way. So I'm going to come to my little tender spot and just pinch all around the area. You don't even have to know which way the muscles are going. And in fact, they're going lots of directions because the ribs, we move all directions in this area. So do that little pinching thing to help set the stage for releasing muscles. And then now isometric work is you're trying to move, but you're preventing. So I've just recently discovered that the way to do isometric with ribs is to squeeze in and breathe deeply. And then at the last second of the breath, release. So let's breathe in. So just before you get to the top. So isometric for strengthening is just resisting, resisting, resisting. But for releasing muscles, resist, resist, release, and then finish the breath and then release. So both ways. And then you can also take a rice bag or something and apply warmth. Save that for after the show. Don't leave. And then creating comfort with the compass. So I've got it's not as tender as it was, but it's still a little bit tender. And this is orthobionomy. That's a class I took before I even did my other training. And so the compass, you think there are attachments 360 around any spot in your body, right? So I'm going to go north, south, which feels better and has more freedom of movement on my tender spot. North has more freedom. When I try to go down, you can see my hand just stopping, but it can glide upward, and up is comfortable. I go with comfort even more than freedom of movement because there might be a structural thing. So now I'm holding and I'm breathing deeply. Deep breathing is like physical therapy for ribs. So, and a 360 breath, like a barrel breath, like, and I'm still pressing upward. And I do that 3 times. And then circle to integrate the changes. And then recheck, press in. And my tender spot's gone. Now, if our watchers still have some tender, then I'd go, and mine moves equally east and west. And we're not worried about which is east and which is west. We're just staying opposite. It's just a way to think about it.
Yeah, inside towards outside, towards midline, away from the midline. Right.
Precisely. And then if there's no difference there, so your choices are, oh, both of these feel bad, or, oh, both of these are fine, or one feels better than the other. And we're looking for that imbalance. If it's already balanced, we're not worried about it. So I'm not going to mess with in and out because those are balanced for me. So that if our watchers have an imbalance there, then you're going to hold toward comfort and do the 3 breaths.
So they go where it's easier to move, basically.
Yep, exactly. Okay. Exactly. And then after the 3 breaths, they'll circle. And then we're going to try diagonal. If there's still any pain, and for me, it seems a little restricted going down, but up's a little uncomfortable. So I'm going to go down because comfort is the name of the game. The be at peace process. And then circle after the breaths. And then check the other diagonal. And that other diagonal is fine for me. And yeah, when I push even out further on the side, always chill in my world. Did you have a tender spot to start with, Vivian?
Mine was just stiff.
Okay.
Yeah, but now it's moving better.
Excellent.
That was excellent. That was fun.
Yeah. And
it didn't even hurt.
Right, exactly. Those upper ribs go clear up into the armpit if you're doing them from the side.
Right.
And I've had, and I actually found through emotion code some emotional ties to this. But I had a chronic issue up here. And if I did anything that aggravated that, like held my hand up for a little too long, holding a picture to hang it or something, that would click back out of place. But it has been happy since releasing the emotions. But I would reach up over my back and there'd be a knot there that wasn't on the other side. So I knew it wasn't supposed to be there. And so with that, I could go up or down, which feels better. And it was always down. And so I'm holding it down. I can support my elbow to give a little bit more downward pressure. So basically, anywhere in your body, if you can reach it, you can release it.
You can release it. Okay. So is there any, like for them, is this basically your tips to start to shift their pain because they can do it? So number one is they have to know that they can, because it's their body, right? They can do something about it before they even take a Tylenol or some pain medication, right? Because they may be able to shift out of that pain, right?
Yeah.
So what do you see? What do you see for the future in light of this current climate that we have with the pandemic? Where do you think people are more drawn towards? Because I know a lot of people are more stuck at home. Some of them are working, but then I know, it's just different, right? Like life is not the same as we used to. Like everything is at our fingertips. We go to the doctor, we go to our massage therapist. Even
Right.
my massage therapy place was closed down for a while, and I was like so happy when they opened up. So what do
Exactly.
you see happening with people all around the world because of this pandemic?
Mhm. One trend that I see is that there was a big shift toward telehealth, which
Tell
is fascinating because who knew? Even a pelvic floor physical therapist that I know was able to do Zoom calls. I'm like, really?
Yes, everything's online. Yes.
And that's because people have two hands and they are the insider and they know what they can do. So she could guide them with
Yes.
their hips and low back and get them comfortable. And in fact, for my work, I've gone to some, I mean, I'm open again for hands-on clients, but uh,
Wow.
I really love doing Zoom calls with clients. I had a gal the other day, young mom at home with her kids, couldn't, she was 45 minutes away and she went, that's just going to be difficult for me.
To
And
drive.
yeah. And who's going to watch the kids while we work on this,
Mhm.
So she did, she had a TMJ issue.
Oh, wow.
So we were able to do a 30-minute session and I taught her the TMJ release points
Wow.
and it was recorded. So just for the
To
cost of a session, yep,
Mhm.
she now has a resource that she can watch again and again. If she forgets what was that third step that we did, she has it
Mhm.
right there. So that's what I see my work going to in the future, especially if we happen to need to shut down again. Yep. I want to be able
Yeah,
to.
and a lot of times it's just people are not aware of their bodies, or maybe we have been programmed to not pay attention to how our alignment is. You know, our grandmothers used to say, "Stand up straight, Vivian. Posture,
Mhm.
posture." And
Right?
then we thought, "Oh, they're nagging me again." But
Yep.
obviously, it's important to have a good posture, right?
Exactly. Oh,
Yes.
I'd love to share a little tip for posture, Vivian. Uh,
Sure.
I read a book, a gal that I really respect, Esther Gokhale is her name, Gokhale, and she has a YouTube video teaching Google employees how to
Mm,
have better posture.
okay.
So this one, she says and what my dad was asking when he would say stand up straight, it
Mhm.
was I would
Shoulder.
tighten my rhomboids, you know,
Mhm.
and okay, those muscles fatigue in less than 30 seconds. and, then I'm, and then I'm back again, right?
Exercise.
So Esther says, rather come, let's see, how do I need to sit here? Forward, up,
Oh,
back, and
back.
one at a time. I didn't say that.
Oh,
When we do both, we tend to tighten the rhomboids. So in isolating, we stop that chain, okay?
okay.
Forward, up, back, down, one side.
Oh, one side.
Ah,
Forward,
that's a
up,
hard habit to break.
back.
Down. And now you hung it on a little shelf back there. Now do the other side. Forward, up, back, down. And
Like a
like,
box.
yes, perfect description. And actually now my posture's better. And it's effortless. It's just hanging back there.
Nice. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. You have a lot of cool tips. All right, Vienna, go
Yeah.
ahead and share with them the name of your book.
Okay.
Um, this is a free book for them, right? It's an ebook.
Yes.
Unless they want a physical book, they can go to Amazon to get your physical book, right?
Yes.
All right.
So it's Stop the Pain. And it's if you go to stopthepainbook.com is
Mhm.
where you can get the free download.
Nice.
This backwards thing is hard to figure out. And
Nice.
then it's also on audiobook and now at booksellers online. You can get a physical copy there as well.
Okay, and then how can they get in touch with you? Is there an email that you can share with the audience?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So it's Vienna at stopthepainbook.com.
Okay, so I'm gonna have Amy put that in the chat. So Vienna at stopthepain.com. Book. Oh, stopthepainbook.com. Vienna at stopthepainbook.com is her email. everyone. So does anyone have a question with our live audience as far as pain? So obviously she's going to address it as a massage therapist and a rib specialist, and I can address physical, emotional, well, mental, or the other one she doesn't address, or spiritual issues that maybe. We're going to do the teamwork here. So, Amy, is there any questions so far on our chat on what kind of pain people have experienced? And it could be anything, right? Like you could be at a grocery store and suddenly you're breathing and oh, what was that? Sharp pain all about, right? So we are here open for Q&A at this time.
And Amy, you too, if you have anything that you'd like to bring up.
Yeah, so I'm going to bring Amy up also. Let's see if, how do I do this again? Like that, I think.
Hello, Amy.
Hi, I've been enjoying this segment today. I do have a question. So for about the last year or so, I have been experiencing some mild chronic mid to lower back pain, mostly lower, but just recently it started to move up to kind of the mid back daily, especially in the mornings when I'm waking up.
All right. Now, I have a very interesting thought about in the mornings as you're waking up. I had that too for a while, and I kept telling my chiropractor about it. And he would adjust my low back. And next time I came back, it would be there again. And finally he said, now tell me exactly when you feel this. And I said, well, like about 5 hours after I go to sleep, I wake up with a spasm in my lower mid back. And he said, oh, that's not a back problem. That's a bed problem. And I went, when you get up and move around, it feels better. Yes.
Okay.
And I did just add like a 2-inch foam topper, and for a few months that helped. And then that began to be uncomfortable. So I took it back off, and then my bed was comfortable again. So for whatever reason.
Interesting.
Amy, I do have another thought for you. Okay, I'm going to stand up. And so I'm going to have you turn to the left, turn to the right. Which one of those has more freedom of movement, more comfort? Turning left, turning right. Which one?
Turning left has more comfort.
Okay, I'm going to have you turn left and hold it there. And we're just going to do like 3 breaths. They don't have to be deep breaths, but I prefer to count breaths rather than seconds, because to me it's tensing trying to think of seconds and not forget what I was doing. But it's improving the situation if I breathe. Okay, and now come back and just integrate the changes, and then recheck to the left and recheck to the right. Is that easy?
Yeah, a little bit easier.
Okay, and so there's an app that I like for mental well-being. I love Headspace for one. That's helped me a lot with overall tension. And another one is called 10% Happier. So if it's 10% less pain, woo! Or
10% happier.
But let's now do it just leaning straight left, leaning straight right.
Yeah.
And so
leaning straight.
Just run your hand down the side of your leg.
Okay.
And which one of those is easier?
They're about the same, because when I'm leaning, I can feel that pull in my lower back, and it's painful.
On both sides?
On both sides, yes.
Perfect. Okay. So now let's kind of run your hand down the back of your leg. So you're leaning back into the side.
Lean back, right? A diagonal right and a diagonal left.
Is one of those better, Amy? In terms of that low back pain?
Probably to the right, leaning back. It's not, to the right, it's more comfortable.
Perfect. Now just support yourself with your hand on your lower back leg, like upper back leg, upper thigh in the back. And go ahead and lean to that side. So, but kind of support yourself. So that muscle is now at rest and it's filling with blood. I'd like to tell a little children's story, Vivian. This is actually what started the thought of the book. I thought, okay, now come back up, Amy, and then just kind of move around and integrate those changes.
Okay.
Yeah, so when Vienna talks about integrating the changes, in other words, you're giving the body a different memory of, instead of it imbalanced, you're actually making it even or symmetrical. That's what I meant by
beautiful description. Thank you. So now, Amy, when you move in some of those earlier ways that cause discomfort, how does that feel?
Feels much better.
Awesome.
Feels like I can stretch the lower muscle without pain. Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So the way this all began, if I could, Vivian.
Sure.
A little children's story that developed because people were coming in for a massage expecting this flowy, strokey thing, you know. I was doing this, hold it for 30 seconds. And they were going, what? What's this? You know. So I would tell this little story until they felt the first release, and then they'd go, oh, do that on the other side. So here's the story. Everything in your body has a home. And in that home, a comfy chair where it really likes to sit. And before you were born, everything was in its comfy chair. And then the bumps and bruises of life, maybe an accident or two, something came out of its comfy chair, maybe even out of its home. You might find it in the backyard, in the rain, crying. Well, then the neighbors hear the commotion. They come running to their back doors. Is everything okay out there? No, I hurt. We'll stand with you to help them. Well, that's neighborly, and it feels like tension because now nobody in the whole neighborhood is in their easy chair. If it goes on long enough, you know, the gossip train, that neighbor might tell their neighbor, who might tell their neighbor, and next thing you know, neighborhood's a mess. Yep. So we need to know, tight muscles are wrung out muscles. Think of a dishcloth or a sponge. And without blood flow, we're missing oxygen to the cells, nutrients to the cells, and somebody to take out the trash. So now we have toxins building up, adding insult to injury. Right. So now we have to get blood flow in, bottom line. And so that's part of that. Heat can bring in blood flow, not on a fresh injury, but, you know, a longer term tight muscle. And so we want to do those things to get blood flow back in. And what we did, moving toward comfort, that brings in blood flow because the muscle is at rest. So I think of that one like a sponge. Sponge wrung out in my fist. I have a bucket. I stick my hand in the bucket and don't let go. Nothing changes. But if I do let go, that sponge goes and fills with water so fast. Why? Because it can. Because nature abhors a vacuum by design. If there is space, it will fill. So it takes 20 to 45 seconds for a muscle to fill with blood when it's put slack, when it's dropped in the bucket. That is the ticket, is how to get blood flow back in and how to remember how to do that. Go for comfort.
Nice.
I love that.
Sounds like Mrs. Rogers, right? Like Mr. Rogers.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I think Lauren has a question. So go ahead.
Lauren has a few comments here. She's saying right shoulder blade is in pain. So I alternate right then left or just work on the side that hurts?
Okay. Where exactly in the shoulder blade? Is it like between the shoulder blade and the spine? And how high up is it?
And while she's answering that, her other comments are using the correct posture movement that was demonstrated. And then could you share the difference between active release therapy as your method? Please, thank you, 10% happier. I'm 10% happier.
Vivian, I'm not as familiar with active release technique. Are you? Can you describe
it a few times from a chiropractor, and it's a little bit different, Lauren, because I remember my chiropractor. I don't know if we have the same technique or same chiropractor does it, right? It's almost like he stretches me And then that kind of hurts because he moves his hands through the tight muscles, and then it releases, and then he moves me further. So active release, I remember it more as there's a component of stretch. There's like isometric, and then stretch, and then isometric again, and then stretch further. So with Vienna, her technique is more find the position of comfort and stay there until you feel the release or the blood flow of the surrounding rib or muscles. So two different things. So hers doesn't hurt at all because I've had her technique done one time. There. She's Lauren now is indicating the location of her shoulder blade pain.
Wonderful.
Yes, it's closer to the right shoulder blade, a bit higher than the chicken wing scapula.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So I'm gonna speak about that, and I'll also say definitely my method is more passive. So like you were saying, that difference in active and passive. Okay. So here's what the technique looks like for that.
The right shoulder blade.
Yeah. Okay. So Lauren, if you can reach up, since it's kind of above the chicken wing, if you can reach up, I'm going to have you feel if there's a knot in there. And typically there is, and it's a rib head. So when I feel along the spine, I should feel a trough. And if there is a tree root in the stream bed, that's a rib lifted. And they should all be in their deep homes. But if one gets lifted, that's what you'd be feeling. And it'd be a knot there. And you just use that comfort with the compass idea. Up or down feels better.
So she's going to hold the knot? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Hold the knot. Okay.
I've got one of my fingers on, or two of my fingers on the knot. And then coming, for me, it's upward feels better. And I just have a very, very small knot that I didn't even realize was there. It hasn't been painful. But I'm glad to release it before it gets painful. And then 3 breaths, like rib expanding breaths, barrel breaths. And sometimes by the second or third breath, you'll feel it click back into its home and back to its easy chair. Circle around to circulate the blood flow that's come in there. And then mine is flatter now. So check and see, Lauren, if yours is flatter. And the other thing I would really like to teach, this is one of my favorite things, probably because it has a fun name. So shrug. Okay, so the upper trapezius muscle is probably what's lifting that rib out of position.
Okay.
So trapezius is a kite that goes down the back, so the shoulder blades up to the neck, so the base of the skull. And so we need that to be put at rest. So first reach up and feel how tight that muscle is for Lauren on her right side. Like reach across the opposite one at a time. And now shrug, chicken wing, lean. So I'm pushing in on my elbow. If you have a wall handy, that's ideal. You just step up to the wall. And a lot of people feel warmth as blood comes in there. Because that thing is a wrung out sponge most of the time for us with our screen time and our various activities. Okay, and again, the breaths. We've had time for 2 already, so we'll do one more. And something just shifted for me. And in the context of relaxation, movement is toward home. So I don't ever worry if something clicks and pops because I'm not forcing anything. It's not going to go awry. So then now I call this a wrench and a scarecrow. So I've got my arm hanging out there. I'm going to put the wrench in the crook of my elbow and I'm pulling outward and coming around. So this is just a light traction. And I do that a couple of times, out and around. And sometimes the rib head will shift back into position that way too. And just kind of integrate.
Kind of like you're doing your own physical therapy. That feels good.
I like this. It feels good. I didn't realize how tight my traps and my in the shoulder blades were.
Exactly. And now let's is the side that you just released softer.
Mm-hmm.
Like usually, oh my
noticeably.
gosh,
Yeah.
it's Play-Doh now.
And biomechanically, if our head is, you know how we're in the computers a lot, or you're looking at your desk like this, as soon as the head, they say, is about 10 pounds. So if you actually move forward a little bit, your upper trapezius will start to tense up anyway.
Exactly.
And how many of us have shoulders that are forward? So every time we change the dynamics of what's balanced or symmetrical, it's really the upper traps kicks in, so you can see how that can affect your ribs. By the way, this technique is also very helpful for those with thoracic outlet syndrome.
Yes, thank
right?
you.
You know how their vessels and nerves that travel here, they get compromised and pinched, and then they start having tingling and pain and numbness. They have all kinds of symptoms down the arms.
Yes.
And then you're thinking, what's wrong with my arm? Because sometimes it's just their hand, but it's really coming from here.
Yes.
So you really need to follow the anatomy and the physiology and know where the compromise is located. Because some doctors would just cut open, they say it's carpal tunnel, but it's really coming from here. So if you've had surgery in your hand and it's still, the symptoms are still there, that means you never relieve the pressure.
Yes.
Because it's not coming from that location. It's just the symptom is there, but it's coming from another part of you.
Vivian, that's brilliant to bring that up because so many people are experiencing that right now. And that shrug chicken wing lean will definitely have a positive impact on that. And then just releasing, especially if you've got tenderness right along that breastbone on the side that's tingling. So the brachial plexus, as Vivian knows, is the nerves down the arm. And they run between the first rib and the collarbone. So when that upper trapezius hijacks that first rib, it compresses against the collarbone and pinches that nerve. So calming that down with inward, outward, which feels better, up or down, hold 30 seconds, releasing, and then checking all along the path. In fact, at times I've felt, and people had like a bone up here, and I'm like, there shouldn't be a bone in the middle of this. And it was the first rib that get out of position. But it'll gladly calm down and go back home when the upper trapezius isn't hijacking it. So I have heard lately, Vivian, I don't know if you've heard this, but this is to me the craziest thing. Another approach to thoracic outlet syndrome is they remove the first rib.
Oh yeah, they've been doing that for a while. It gives a little release from the pressure temporarily.
But why not let it go back home?
Yeah, but then it also gives you some form of instability. If you look at that. Right. And there's so many structures in this area, right? Like the tip of your lungs actually connect to the ligaments of your neck. And she's right, the brachial plexus is just a complex term that they use in medicine or healthcare that describes the different nerves. And an artery and a vein always travels with the nerve. They kind of go together like a trio, usually, in every part of our body. So when you have some kind of nerve symptoms, sometimes we mistake it for a circulation symptom, right? Like because they're all together, so they get mixed, especially if you wait too long to have it fixed or to have it corrected, like back in place, like Vienna said. Put it back home. You know, her message is clear, right? Like if you don't feel safe in your own body, that's your own home. So you have to feel safe in order for you to do your job well in whatever job you're doing. So if you feel good in your body, I'm sure your body parts inside and out would also feel good. So it's just it's complementary.
Yes.
So, wow. Thank you, Vienna. We love this show that we can actually share with the viewers different tools and techniques they can use immediately, especially nowadays. Like you said, people are in Zoom and computers all day long. And people say, I'm zoomed out. That's what they tell me.
Yes.
They're zoomed out because their body doesn't feel good anymore.
Exactly.
So perhaps try this. Lauren says she's going to get the help of a tennis ball. That's also good. You know, a little blood flow in the area.
Exactly.
So thank you so much for this wonderful information. And for everyone who watched and viewed and asked for, Belen said, thank you. This is awesome. Yes, thank you so much. And Belen, like you said, Vienna is so a master when it comes to this, right? When your circulation here in the neck area is moving, guess what happens to your brain? You get more blood flow. Yay! You get smarter. You get more clear and focused. Like literally your neck area, it holds the key a lot to how your brain starts to function. So thank you, Vienna. This was very, very informative, and I hope the viewers have had a chance to practice with you. Otherwise, we're going to send this out to them as well. For those who don't have Facebook.
Can I share one more idea, Vivian?
Yes,
please. It just occurred to me. Where especially where people are worried about COVID, they know their lungs need to be functioning without compromise, right? So we have thought, everybody I've ever talked to has said, agreed with me that we have thought that we breathe in, our lungs fill, and our ribs expand. And actually, it's the opposite. So the lungs, if you compared them and your liver on a table, neither one has much muscle tissue. It's not about that. So your lungs are not expanding on their own. Rather, your diaphragm goes down and it's attached to the ribs. And then your ribs come up and out. And that expansion in both directions creates a vacuum, negative space in the chest, and that's what fills the lungs. So if your ribs are in lockdown because of muscle tension, so that's why it's important to have free moving ribs, because you're going to need to be able to take a deep breath, especially if you're wearing a mask, for goodness sakes, right?
That's true. Yep. Exactly.
Your oxygen's already compromised, so at least be taking deep breaths in your mask. And then also to keep, when you're not wearing a mask, you want to be able to have that good circulation of the oxygen through the lungs to get to the bloodstream, helps your whole immune system, right? Your brain, as Vivian said, let's think as clearly as we can.
Yes, especially now.
Thanks for letting me share that.
Yes, thank you.
People can also email, and I can do a discovery call with them and see if it would make sense to work together over video. So
awesome. Okay, so you can email Vienna at stopthepainbook.com. Okay. So thank you so much, everyone, for participating. And remember, on Tuesdays, My Spiritual GPS is your home for a lot of these alternative, holistic types of healing that you can use for yourself, for your loved ones, without drugs or without painful interventions. It's really cool. So watch us again on Tuesday, My Spiritual GPS, for another alternative and holistic practitioner. So thank you so much, everyone. And tomorrow, we do have another show in another network called How to Stop People Pleasing. So watch out for that show. You may learn a few tips.
I'll be there for that one.
Thank you so much, Amy, for facilitating all these comments. Thank you, viewers. And I hope everyone has a great week ahead of you. So practice the Stop the Pain technique by Vienna. Take care. Bye-bye.